The amphibious German Jeep that swam across 15,584 rivers in World War II. Imagine a vehicle that could drive through a forest, reach a river, and without stopping, without even slowing down, transform itself and swim across. No ramp, no preparation. Just drive in and keep going. The Germans built exactly that, and they built over 15,000 of them. This wasn't some prototype that never left the testing ground. This was a mass-produced machine that served on every front where the Wehrmacht fought, from the frozen marshes of Russia to the canals of France, from Norwegian fjords to North African oases. It crossed rivers the Allies didn't even know were crossable. It appeared behind enemy lines in places wheeled vehicles simply should not exist. And for years, Allied intelligence couldn't figure out how the Germans were doing it. But this remarkable machine had a fatal flaw, a design compromise that would eventually contribute to Germany's defeat in ways its creators never anticipated. A weakness, hidden in plain sight. The year is 1940. Germany has just torn through Poland and France with a new kind of warfare. Blitzkrieg, lightning war. Speed is everything. But there's a problem emerging. Europe is covered in rivers, thousands of them. Every advance stops at water. Bridges become choke points, bottlenecks, death traps. Engineers need hours to build pontoon crossings. Meanwhile, momentum dies. The lightning slows. The German High Command issues a requirement. They need a light reconnaissance vehicle that can cross water obstacles without support. No boats, no bridges, no waiting. The vehicle must carry 4 men and their equipment. It must operate in the same extreme conditions as their other vehicles. Arctic cold, desert heat, Russian mud. And critically, it must be simple enough for average soldiers to use. No specialized training, no complicated procedures. Ferdinand Porsche takes the assignment. Yes, that Porsche. The man who would later create one of the world's most famous sports car companies. But in 1940, he's an engineer working for the Reich. He's already designed the Volkswagen, the people's car, that would eventually become the Beetle. Now he'll adapt that same basic design into something the world has never seen before. He calls it the Schwimmwagen, the swimming car. From the outside, it looks almost ordinary. A small, boxy vehicle with 4 seats, angular bodywork, open top, smaller than an American Jeep, just 12 feet long. At a glance, you might not even notice what makes it different. But every detail has been engineered for its dual existence. The body is the hull, not a chassis with a boat attached, not a vehicle that converts into a boat. The entire steel body is watertight, one continuous sealed unit. The floors, the sides, the firewall, all welded to form a vessel that happens to have wheels. Ground clearance is minimal. The belly nearly scrapes the earth. Because on water, that low profile means less drag, less resistance. The propeller folds up beneath the rear bumper when driving on land. Hidden. When the vehicle enters water, the driver pulls a lever. The propeller drops down and engages with the engine through a simple dog clutch. The same engine that turns the wheels now spins a 3-bladed prop. No complex gearbox, no electric motors, pure mechanical simplicity. Power comes from a 25 horsepower engine. The same air-cooled flat 4 from the Volkswagen. Mounted in the rear for weight distribution. On land, it pushes the Schwimmwagen to 50 miles per hour. In water, 6 miles per hour against the current. Slow by modern standards, but faster than rowing. Faster than any other military vehicle attempting the same crossing. The front wheels turn normally on land. In water they become rudders. The entire front axle pivots. Turn the steering wheel and the vehicle responds. Not sharply. This is no speedboat, but predictably, controllably. The Wehrmacht trains drivers to aim upstream at an angle, letting the current help guide them across. Before we go on, if forgotten and impossible war machines fascinate you, subscribe to Forgotten War Relics and hit the bell so you never miss one. Ground clearance causes constant problems on rough terrain. The low-slung hull that performs so well in water scrapes over rocks, ruts, tree stumps. The vehicle beaches itself regularly. Gets stuck on obstacles a normal Jeep would simply roll over. Soldiers learn to carry wooden planks, steel plates, anything to bridge gaps the Schwimmwagen cannot cross on its own. But when they reach water, all that frustration evaporates. Production begins in 1942 at the Volkswagen plant in Fallersleben. Later, additional assembly happens at Porsche's facilities in Stuttgart. The manufacturing process mirrors civilian car production. Stamped steel panels, welded construction, interchangeable parts. This isn't a handcrafted military special. It's industrial mass production applied to an amphibious vehicle. By the war's end, over 15,000 Schwimmwagens roll off the line. That number is staggering. The United States produces approximately 12,000 of its own amphibious Jeep, the Ford GPA. But the GPA is widely considered a failure, unreliable, overcomplicated. The Schwimmwagen, despite its compromises, actually works. The Wehrmacht distributes them to reconnaissance units, engineering companies, and headquarters battalions. Officers love them. Generals use them as personal transport. Erwin Rommel himself is photographed in one during the North African campaign. Heinrich Himmler owns one for inspections. They become status symbols, practical tools elevated to prestige items. Each vehicle costs the Reich roughly 2,000 Reichsmarks to produce. Cheaper than a motorcycle with sidecar. Far cheaper than a half-track. For the price of one Panzer tank, Germany could field 25 Schwimmwagens. The economics make sense, until you consider what that production capacity might have built instead. Because here's what the German High Command doesn't fully grasp in 1942. Every Schwimmwagen rolling off the line represents industrial capacity, not building something else. Not producing trucks that could actually carry supplies. Not manufacturing spare parts for vehicles already at the front. The Schwimmwagen is clever. It's innovative. It works. But clever doesn't win wars when your enemy has 10 times your industrial capacity. Clever doesn't win wars when your enemy has 10 times your industrial capacity and doesn't need to be clever at all. The Schwimmwagen sees action on every front where Germany fights. The Eastern Front, North Africa, Italy, France, Norway, anywhere there's water to cross and roads too broken for normal vehicles. And that's almost everywhere by 1943. On the Eastern Front, they prove invaluable during the spring Rasputitsa, the mud season, when the ground turns to soup and entire divisions grind to a halt. Reconnaissance units in Schwimmwagens keep moving. They ford swollen rivers, cross flooded fields, maintain contact when radio fails, and roads vanish into brown slurry that swallows trucks whole. Soviet forces learn to fear the distant sound of that air-cooled engine. Because where the Schwimmwagen goes, German observers follow. And where observers go, artillery strikes soon arrive. In Norway, they navigate the fjords. German mountain troops used them to patrol coastlines too rugged for boats, too fragmented for roads. The cold is brutal. Engines freeze. But the Schwimmwagen's simplicity becomes an advantage. Fewer parts to fail. Easier field repairs. A Norwegian resistance report from 1944 notes that German patrols in Schwimmwagens can cover twice the distance of foot patrols in half the time. North Africa is different. Rommel's Afrika Korps uses them extensively in the early campaigns. But the desert exposes the fatal compromise built into every Schwimmwagen: ground clearance. That low-slung hull designed to slip through water sits too close to the sand. They bog down, overheat. The air-cooled engine chokes on dust. By El Alamein, most are relegated to rear echelon duties. Headquarters, transport, officer taxis. The prestige symbol without the battlefield utility. The numbers tell a story the propaganda films never do. Of the 15,184 Schwimmwagens produced, German records indicate that approximately 11,000 are lost during the war. Destroyed, captured, abandoned. That's a 70% loss rate, catastrophic by any standard. But the losses aren't concentrated in combat. Most simply break down. The transmission, always the weak point, fails under sustained use. The propeller shaft snaps. The hull cracks. These aren't tanks. They're glorified jeeps asked to do impossible things in impossible places. Yet soldiers who use them remember the Schwimmwagen fondly. Post-war interviews reveal a consistent theme. When it worked, it was brilliant. A German lieutenant recalls crossing the Dnieper River in Ukraine during the retreat of 1943. His Schwimmwagen carried 6 men and their equipment across under Soviet fire. The alternatives were swimming or surrendering. Neither appealing. The vehicle saved their lives. An American intelligence report from 1945 analyzes captured Schwimmwagens in detail. The conclusion is brutally honest. Superior design to the American GPA in almost every measurable way. Better weight distribution, more reliable engine, simpler mechanical systems. The report recommends that future American amphibious vehicle designs study the Schwimmwagen extensively. They do. The post-war American military quietly incorporates several Schwimmwagen innovations into later amphibious vehicles. But here's a darker legacy that history forgets. The Schwimmwagen is so successful at what it does that it encourages German military planners to pursue other specialized vehicles, other clever solutions to tactical problems. The Wehrmacht becomes obsessed with engineering perfection, while the Soviets and Americans win through brutal simplicity and overwhelming numbers. Germany builds 15,000 amphibious jeeps. The Soviet Union builds over 200,000 standard trucks. Boring trucks, simple trucks, trucks that work. By war's end, Schwimmwagens litter Europe, abandoned in French ditches, sunk in Russian rivers, burned in German forests. The Allies capture thousands. Many are scrapped. Some are kept as souvenirs. A few end up in museums. Today, surviving Schwimmwagens are among the most collectible military vehicles in the world. Auction prices reach $200,000, sometimes more. Collectors prize them for the same reason Wehrmacht officers did. They're fascinating machines, beautiful in their utilitarian way, clever solutions to real problems. But that cleverness obscures a harder truth. The Schwimmwagen represents everything wrong with German war production. Over-engineering, unnecessary complexity, resources wasted on vehicles that were interesting rather than essential. Every Schwimmwagen required parts and labor that could have built something Germany desperately needed. Another truck, another howitzer, another crate of ammunition. The strangest war machines aren't always the biggest or the deadliest. Sometimes they're the small ones, the clever ones, the ones that worked exactly as designed but missed the point entirely. The Schwimmwagen swam across 15,584 rivers. An impressive number, a meaningless number. Because in the end, Germany didn't need a jeep that could swim. It needed to win a war. And no amount of clever engineering could change that fundamental fact. If you enjoyed this, subscribe to Forgotten War Relics for more of the strangest machines history forgot.